As soon as Victoria's lockdown was announced yesterday, people jumped in their cars or hopped on earlier flights to flee the state. The Hume Highway out of Melbourne was packed with cars and caravans as thousands left. At the airport, they tried their luck despite Qantas and Virgin cancelling more than 25 flights in and out of Melbourne.
I just want to get out. Please let us out. You know, I haven't been to any exposure sites, haven't been near anyone, I've been home. I just want to go on holiday. I've cancelled 3 times.
I already got a mum, so sorry Gladys. I'll listen to my mum, not you.
Jumped a sneaky earlier flight to make sure I was up before what looks like happening down in Melbourne.
This is about the 4th time I think I've done a runner out of Melbourne, so for work.
Victorians will be met with harsh measures if they made it interstate before lockdown came into effect.
They thought they'd escaped a lockdown by the skin of their teeth.
3 months ago we had it planned, just happened to fall on this day that we were going, so we got lucky, I guess.
But hours later, Queensland's Premier announced the whole of Victoria was declared a hotspot.
Anyone who has travelled through Victoria and arrived in Queensland today before that 1 a.m. will have to observe the same lockdown conditions as they would if they were still in Victoria.
We will be messaging you to say if you've filled out a declaration pass, you've been in Victoria in the last 14 days, you will need to follow exactly the same process as if you were still in Victoria.
Queenslanders returning home from Victoria will be forced into hotel quarantine. Non-residents arriving without an exemption will be turned away. In Darwin, visitors touched down at the airport, only to find the rules had changed while they were in the air. The Northern Territory government announcing anyone from Greater Melbourne or Bendigo will be forced into hotel quarantine.
Just disappointed, deflated, concerned for my family.
In a continued domino effect, Tasmania shut its borders with Victoria. People who have visited the state in the past 2 weeks will also be turned away. But there is some reprieve for Tasmanians caught out in chaos.
Tasmanian residents who are in Victoria at the moment can apply for essential traveller status to return home, but if approved, they'll be required to quarantine at a suitable premises on arrival for 14 days.
Western Australia has classified Victoria a medium-risk jurisdiction, sparking a hard border closure.
As with any incident throughout the pandemic, convenience and disruption is weighed up against the potential harm of a local outbreak, especially with this variant.
In the ACT, travellers from Victoria won't be able to enter unless they've received an approved exemption, in which case they'll be required to stay at home for 7 days. South Australia remains closed to Greater Melbourne. And while New South Wales border remains open, anyone travelling from Victoria to New South Wales will need to follow the same stay-at-home measures as if they were in Victoria. That means they'll only be allowed to leave their place of residence for essential items, medical care, caregiving, outdoor exercise and authorised work and education if it cannot be done from home. Border residents in townships like Albury-Wodonga will only need to isolate if they visit regions outside of their communities. And the Prime Minister has a simple message for all Australians grappling with the new travel restrictions. Get the coronavirus vaccine as soon as possible. Georgia Simpson, Sky News.